BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, questions around new UK targets on pesticide use.
How will this actually be implemented and delivered, particularly when we see support schemes for farmers currently on pause?
But let's start today with a crop which originates from Siberia, grows in the dark and is picked by candlelight. Yeah, I'm talking about forced rhubarb, and supermarket sales are surging. The majority of this crop comes from a small area of West Yorkshire known as the Rhubarb Triangle. Sarah Falkingham has been to meet a fourth-generation grower.
I've come to Pudsey near Leeds, and I'm in a steep valley with stone walls around me, some fields and lots of houses because we're in a suburban area of Leeds. And rhubarb has been commercially grown here since Victorian times because it's in a frost pocket, and there's also lots of cheap coal for heating the sheds. So I'm outside in the fields where the crowns initially grow for 2 years and then they need frost before coming into the warm sheds behind me for harvesting, and that's where the cheap coal came in handy. And I'm with Robert Tomlinson, whose family have been here for over 140 years. There's only about a dozen or so families left growing Yorkshire forced rhubarb to give it its proper protected designation of origin name.
That's right.
And Robert, you're going to take me into the harvesting sheds behind us?
Yeah, we're going to go in the sheds, and you can see where we grow it in the pitch black, and we harvest it by candlelight.
I'm just walking into this pitch black area. It takes time for your eyes to adjust. I could just see one solitary candle ahead of me. Ah, wow. Robert has just switched on an electric light for the purposes of the interview. And these hundreds of pink stalks with just really small yellow leaves.
We grow them in the dark to cut out photosynthesis. Therefore, there's no chlorophyll, and the sugar stays in the stick rather than going into a giant leaf like you get in your garden, which makes the stick far more tender and less stringy than outdoor rhubarb and sweeter.
So supermarkets are reporting a big surge in sales. Tesco say it's doubled compared to last year. What do you put that down to?
I think I put it down to the vibrant colour. You can only have it for 3-4 months of the year. The chefs are using it a lot, bakers are using it a lot. It's all over Instagram, it's a vibrant colour, and I think it's just built and built, really.
What's happening to your sales, would you say?
Every stick is sold, which there's not many crops that you can have, which you can say that. Even next year's crop, I know every stick's sold. We just can't produce enough. You can't get, everyone struggles for staff, don't they, like any other farming business, so it's difficult.
So there's just you and your wife picking this, you said, and I met your daughter on the way as well.
Yeah. So at the start of September, we started to split roots up for harvest in 2027. So me and Paula, we've split up and planted 50,000 sets, we call them, a little piece of rhubarb root. And then we've fetched 25,000 roots into the sheds between us. And so far we've picked 25 tonne between two of us, yeah.
That's a lot. Is it hard work? So how do you pick it? Can you show me how you pick it?
Yeah.
Just run your finger down, you put your thumb down.
Yeah, and push it backwards.
Down to the very base.
Yeah.
And out it comes. I'm told they grow about nearly an inch a day sometimes.
They can do, yeah. That's why they say you can hear it growing.
What, popping? Literally popping?
Yeah. It's dead quiet, you can hear it going.
So these sticks you got in your hand, obviously they're a valuable commodity.
Yeah.
How far does your crop go, do you think?
Our rhubarb is travelling out to New York, to 3 Michelin-star restaurants in New York. Go to Paris, Copenhagen, Miami. They tell me it's off to Los Angeles next year. Yeah, I can't quite believe it.
That's well-travelled rhubarb, isn't it?
Yeah, all from this little place in Pudsey, yeah.
Robert Tomlinson there with Sarah Falkingham. Now, here's a stat to amaze your friends. Today, roughly 37 million eggs will be eaten here in the UK. The egg industry says we consume nearly 12 billion a year, with the vast majority produced in this country. Well, all this week, we'll be looking at eggs from colony cages to free range. Mark Williams from the British Egg Industry Council says demand is up.
Sales of eggs have increased by over 4% in the last 12 months. We've increased our national laying flock back to where it was in the days of COVID, which was 44 million. And everything's really looking positive for our industry.
Now let's talk a bit about how eggs are produced. Battery cages have been banned, but we still have what's called a colony cage. Just describe what that is.
So unlike the traditional battery cages, which were very small, barren cages, which received a lot of criticism, an enriched colony cage is a series of cages with no partitions in the middle. We provide a nest box, perches for the hens to go to sleep on at night, a scratching area. So they are a huge improvement.
Despite that, many supermarkets did pledge to phase out any cage-produced eggs, actually by 2025. Have they?
Well, that commitment was made back in 2016 here in the UK by a number of retailers and food service companies. We believe that consumers should have the choice of the egg they buy. And if you go into a British supermarket today, you will see different types of egg available, all clearly labelled, whether that's be a caged egg, a barn egg, a free-range egg or an organic egg. And it's those consumers who will make that informed choice at the shop shelf.
Although I have spoken to farmers who invested in colony cages, only having to take them out before actually they'd finished paying for them because people were moving more towards a free-range sort of system.
It comes back to providing consumer choice. And if you look at where we are with colony cages today, they account for 21% of UK production, down from something like 78%, which was cage production in 1999. We have responded to consumer demand for free-range egg in particular in this country. And in fact, we have the largest number of free-range hens anywhere in the world. We are obviously disappointed that we are going to lose enriched cages at retail level here in the United Kingdom. However, we do have other sectors. So roughly 2/3 of eggs are sold at shell at retail level. And of the other 1/3 of eggs, about half of them are sold to the price-conscious food service sector, and the other half of that 1/3 to the price-conscious processing sector, where there is still demand for an enriched caged egg. And, you know, the key thing is, if we don't produce those eggs in this country, unless government is prepared to stop caged eggs coming into this country from abroad, all we're doing is effectively exporting welfare.
The other welfare concern that's often raised is the culling of male chicks who aren't needed. How common is that now?
We hatch around 38 million day-old chicks every year, and you can double that if you include the males. Now, males don't lay eggs, so they are humanely disposed of at day old.
How is that done?
Well, here in the UK, we use a mix of argon and oxygen, and the male day-old chicks simply go to sleep. We are not cruel in the way we do this. The practice that takes place in this country is humane. It's governed by APHA. There is a code of practice operated by the Humane Slaughter Association. These day-old chicks are not waste. That is a really important point to make. Such is the demand from zoos, reptile keepers, birds of prey centres who want a whole carcass to feed to those birds, that we actually have to import 30% of our need.
Mark Williams. And later in the week, we'll have more on a new technology used in Europe, which enables producers to identify male chicks before they're hatched. The UK has set a pesticide reduction target of 10% over the next 5 years. The UK Pesticides National Action Plan from all 4 UK governments says it will support farmers and growers to reduce the potential harm from pesticides. So rather than farmers using 10% less, the plan wants more sustainable use, which reduces the impact on the environment by 10%. While environmental groups have welcomed the plan, they describe the target as modest. The government says UK farmers reduced pesticide use by 60% between 1990 and 2020. At the same time, worldwide use in agriculture increased by 90%. Martin Lyons farms in Cambridgeshire and is the CEO of the Nature Friendly Farming Network.
This plan has been long awaited. It's great to see it come out, but how will this actually be implemented and delivered? Particularly when we see support schemes for farmers delivering different things in different parts of the UK, and actually the England's SFI options currently on pause.
Now, within that sustainable farming incentive, there was a payment for reducing your pesticide use. Is that something that actually your members have taken up as they've moved towards a more nature-friendly way of farming?
Yeah, I think there's huge numbers have taken it up and used it as an opportunity to support their approach to integrated pest management, taking an approach of minimising your use of pesticides by changing your farming practices. And to have those in those schemes, they've got continued support. But many other farmers were just about to enter those schemes. So the incentive for the industry, the goalposts have moved yet again.
The government will point out that there was a finite amount of money in that scheme, and they say it's a success, in fact, that they've had to close it because so many people want to be part of it. Given this target that you're now being presented with, is this something that farmers should be doing just because it's a good thing to do?
The majority of farmers are already doing integrated pest management. Many of them don't realise they're doing it in the decisions they take every day. And there is incentives within farm assurance schemes to do it. But to do it well should reduce your costs, should sort of help you have a more resilient system. But to get the balance right, to work with nature and have the predators and pollinators in your landscape, that public support for delivering those habitats have been a key thing to sort of build resilience into a farm business, because if a disaster happens and you have a big pest problem or disease problem, you've got some funding coming in to build some resilience.
Do you think actually farmers will do this if they can't get some kind of government support to help them?
I think they'll be doing integrated pest management because some of it's part of like the Red Tractor scheme and other schemes. But will they be actually brave enough to take those steps to go that much further and stop using insecticides or reduce some pesticide use? They're going to be focused on getting the best return from their produce and their landscape. And I think many of them will actually go the opposite way and push a bit harder to try and get more from their landscape.
Martin Lyons. That's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Rebecca Rooney, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production. Now over to the BBC Weather Centre for the Farming Today 5-day forecast.